I'd like to call to order the Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, March 25th, 2014. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Calling the roll, Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Hairston? Here. Ms. Simon? Here. Mr. Greenspan?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Brady?
Here.
Mr. Germana?
Here.
Mr. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Schron?
Here.
Ms. Conwell? Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Ms. Conley? Here. There is a quorum.
Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, Reverend Pinckney requested to speak.
Good afternoon once again. Congratulations on your endeavor for the deal of. Congratulations again for your endeavor for the deal for the performing arts. And I wanted to make sure that it is a deal. In my travels and in my experiences, I ask that as you pursue this matter, that you will look in the performing arts as to how females and children are displayed when you make this deal with this property for whatever uses that they are going to be using. I reviewed the matters for the 5 o'clock meeting, but I don't want the baby to be a distraction, so Council President Conley, I will send you my comments via email.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. You all have a blessed evening.
All right, stay
And
warm.
Thank you all very much for your prayers. We still have a lot of work to do for the matter I boldly addressed on last week, on the
Okay.
last meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item 4, we have items referred to committee. If you'd like to read item 0040.
Resolution number 2014-0040, a resolution authorizing a purchase and sale agreement with Playhouse Square Foundation in the amount of $1 for the sale of county-owned property commonly known as the Lowe's Building, located at 1501 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, authorizing termination of the indenture of lease agreement as amended, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Thank you. I understand that we're going to have a presentation from Mr. Kelly, who, oh, there he is.
Thank you, Madam President. Since our last meeting on the topic, actually, for the benefit of our new councilman and to recap, what we have sought is to declare victory on a decision that was made in 1977 to purchase the Lowe's Building, which is one of the buildings that is part of the Playhouse Square complex, to save it from certain demolition. Since then, the county has leased that property back to Playhouse Square Foundation, and the organization has become financially strong. Through the transition and the evaluation of the holdings that the county owns, became clear that we had a property that it no longer made sense for us to own in the manner in which we own it, which is a lease where we, it's called a capital lease, where we pay the property owner or the tenant for the costs to occupy it. So over the past many years, Playhouse Square has invested over $25 million into the Lowe's Building, and since 2007 we've paid them about $1 million a year, and they've continued to make about $1 million a year or more in improvements to the property. I tell you, the county staff gets younger and younger every year. See, that's a joke because there's a baby crying behind me.
Oh, okay.
Can't all be hits.
It feels like church.
Well, what I'm going to preach about today is something a little bit more tangible than that.
One segue after another.
So,
Yeah, and Melvin wore his white suit for the occasion, so.
we have negotiated with Playhouse Square to an opportunity to transfer the property that we own, the Lowe's Building, which is appraised at about $15 million a year and has only one $15 million, actually $13 million and change, which has only one natural occupant, that is Playhouse Square, for $1. In exchange, they will release us from an operating lease where we compensate them $1 million a year, per year, with increases for CPI and others, a savings of $24 million if council should agree to it. At our last meeting, there were a number of questions that were brought up. Why is this different than the other property decision-making that we've gone through? And here's why. This property is not an asset the way that the administration building is, the courthouse square is, and the many other properties in the county portfolio. It is a liability. We have a $24 million marker on that property, and this proposal in front of you will allow us to save those dollars. Playhouse Square agrees. A consideration was, well, what if we put the property up for sale? I think that if we were to put it up for sale the way that we did with other properties, the outcomes would be against the financial best interest and the policy best interest of the county. For example, if the property were to sell at its fair market value to Playhouse Square, we would still have the liability of the lease. If the property sold, let's say for this instance, for $14 million, we have a $24 million liability. We would lose $10 million in that transaction. If another entity were to purchase it, we run the risk of deep sixing Playhouse Square, or at least the site, and we still are out the liability that we have with the lease. We can go through a number of permutations, but it's at the advice of our council that this is a good approach. From a business perspective, I think it's a good approach. Other items were brought up both in the meeting and afterwards. And I know some council members have talked to Playhouse Square. And while I think that those are good things for Playhouse Square and the county to engage in, I don't think that they should be part of a written transaction for this purpose. But I know that Councilman Schron had given me some great news, which, I mean, if you'd like to share, I'm happy to share it. I think that would be important for the council to hear.
Whenever you're finished. You want to chop, but
No, and bottom line is, on behalf of the administration, we ask that the legislation is favorably received and that we're able to move forward, declare victory on the purchase from 1977, end the lease, and save $24 million.
Mr. Schron, you wish to be heard?
Yeah. Madam President, thank you very much. And I did have an occasion to meet with and have lunch with Mr. Falco following our last meeting, and picking up on the cues from this council, I did approach Mr. Falco and suggested that if the city and both the mayor and the president of city council have a seat at the Playhouse Square board, it's only appropriate that our president and our chief executive be sitting at that same board, though he did not have the authority on his own to put that in place. He said that he would take this to their board of directors and recommend that we have 2 seats at the Playhouse Square board, and that the gateway going into Playhouse Square from Huron Road would be named after the county, so that there's going to be 4 gateways. If you see them starting to go up, it's Connolly. It's right. Yeah, I wasn't silly. I'm going for votes now. And it was the Ellen Conley Way, as what I was suggested. But no, it'll be named after Cuyahoga County. That's right. So he indicated that of the 4, 3 of them are going to be for sale, and 1 of them will be named after the Cuyahoga County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schron. I have had long and hard trepidations about this, and I've really done a lot of reading on it. And this really goes back to an investment the county made in 1977, and then it grew from there, and there were contracts and agreements made. And this is sort of the culmination of contracts that were made back then that we don't have any way of changing. And of course, hindsight is always 20/20, and maybe, you know, other governments would have done things other ways, but we have created this theater district, which is the second largest in the nation. And it is really an economic engine, you know, for our downtown. So to that effect, it is positive. And, you know, you finally convinced that we are getting out from under this, what's it, $25,000 debt that we would have to pay, $25 million we have to pay over the next so many years. Is that?
Yep, at least $24 million liability for the term of the lease is currently signed.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one to swallow, but I don't think we have any choice in this. Does other people want to be heard? Mr. Greenspan?
Well, if it appears that we're in a contract, and whether we agree or disagree with the quality of the contract,
We didn't make.
if the selling point comes out that this is a $24 million savings to the county, then maybe the appropriate way to look at this would be a $24 million installment sale. So meaning, instead of us paying out $1 million a year over 24 years, we'd be receiving $1 million a year over 24 years. Does that make sense? Theory, different way to skin this ugly cat. I'm looking, is it?
That's one way to look at it.
All right, very good.
Sounds like animal abuse to me.
Right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Germano?
My sentiment is practically the same thing, in that, you know, if this gets billed as giving this building away for a buck, you know, people are gonna say, what the heck are we
Right.
giving a building away for a buck? But, you know, if you frame it that we're, for $1 formally, we're reducing our debt or obligation, 24 million, it is much better. And, you know, we're trying to pass a sin tax here, you know. John Public, if he sees we're selling it for a buck, he's going, what the heck are these guys doing with the downtown building? So I don't know how we could frame this, but it really, the purchase and sale agreement is actually, you know, if we could add to it, this agreement is also a forbearance of a $24 million obligation.
That is part of the agreement that's being approved by council, the termination of the lease and therefore the obligations under the lease. So that's happening concurrently with the purchase and sale.
Yes, that's a good point. So Mr. Germano's point is well taken. We should clearly say that, yeah, we terminate a lease
Is we're
and.
saving $24 million. It's not the buck
Right,
that should be the headline. It's the 24 million that we're saving.
by terminating the lease.
And if actually you looked at the very first sentence, that the Cuyahoga County Council authorizes the county executive, it even starts to terminate the lease as amended and enter into the purchase and sale agreement for $1. So that's exactly what we're doing here.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Schron and Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that when we were elected, the 11 of us, we were elected hopefully to try to make the best decisions possible with the facts that are being presented to us. And there will be contracts, this will not be the last, of which that would have been passed by a previous administration, signed off by the county commissioners. And though they might have made sense at the time, there's probably items that we're passing today that years hence, 10, 15 years from now, somebody might have in the light of looking backwards, be able to make comments about some of the things that we've made decisions on in regards to different activities. But we were hired to make the best business decisions, the best decisions for our community. And there's just, can be no other way to look at this other than the best business decision is to get off a $24 million obligation and move it on to somebody else's side of the ledger and just move on with this as an intelligent decision as we sit up here today.
All right, Mr. Miller?
Madam Chair, my feelings are the same as Councilman Schranz. I think this agreement is in the best interest of Cuyahoga County, in the best interest of Playhouse Square, and in the best interest of the broader community. And both the county executive and the county council have communications capabilities. They have a little bit more than we do, but we both have some. And it appears that that there's some work that needs to be done to put this in the proper framing so that it's well understood that the county is gaining a considerable benefit along with the sale. So I'm a yes. Thank you.
Madam President, just a question for Mr. Kelly. Have we made either one of the 2014 payments yet?
The January payment was scheduled. I can't confirm that it was paid, but I would assume that it was. So we would not be making the June payment if this passes.
Can we just verify that as the status of that?
Certainly, that'll be done.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, this was, what do we, procedure, what do we got? We got to vote this out of committee, then vote on it?
Yes, Madam Chair, you need to vote it out of committee for, at the very least, second reading or second reading adoption under suspension.
Okay, so it's not on the agenda for tonight. It'll be on the agenda for the next meeting?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any time matter, so we can do it just, we can do 3 readings? Okay. All right, is there a motion then, if there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion to move this out of the committee and put it on the agenda for second reading?
So move.
Second.
I moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Mr. Miller. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so it'll be on for second reading, which will be April the 8th, and then the third reading will be April 22nd? Okay. All right, thank you. We have an executive session we have to do, so let me read my little script here. All meetings of the Cuyahoga County Council are open to the public under the Ohio Open Meetings Law. Under that law, council may go into executive during a meeting for specifically authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside the hearing of the public. Council may not make any decisions about any matters in executive sessions. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, council will go into executive session to discuss a collective bargaining matter. During this time, our live stream will be down, and we will ask all those specifically not needed for the executive session to leave council chambers. Anyone may re-enter once the executive session is ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing a collective bargaining matter? Moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Jones. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Madam
President,
Chair,
we
I
need
have
vote.
to
Oh,
do
I'm sorry,
a
you gotta
roll
call the roll, sorry,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay. Moving to executive session. Mr. Jones?
Purnell. Oh, yes, say yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hairston?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Germana? Yes. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell is absent. Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Let's cut off the live stream, we'll go into executive session.